Hello, everyone. We are just going to wait a couple more minutes for some other people to join. Okay, we will go ahead and get started. Well, everyone, welcome to today's webinar. This session is presented in partnership with Cavallo, and we're excited to have Alyssa here with us to walk you through how their tariff control solution can simplify your process and protect your bottom line. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Alyssa.
All right, thank you, Leah, an implementation specialist, for having us here today. And thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Alyssa Strand, and I lead the SalesPad product development at Cavallo. So we're covering a very topical theme today, how SalesPad empowers people to manage tariffs, automate tariff calculations for sales orders, ensure customers have visibility of those added costs, and ultimately stay in control of your profitability. Some quick background on me before we jump into things. Again, my name is Alyssa. I am Cavallo's Senior Product Manager for the SalesPad suite of applications. I've been with Cavallo for about 8 years now, and I'm located at our headquarters in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I spend my free time reading, playing video games, and getting in some yoga to stretch out all the kinks that I get from sitting at a desk all day, which I'm sure some of you know the feeling. So without further ado, let's get into our topic for today. I'm sure it's not a surprise to anyone here that tariffs are causing concerns for businesses across a variety of industries. And it's even more impactful when tariffs are changing weekly, even daily, leaving people scrambling to not only stay up to date on the latest rules, but to find ways to mitigate those costs before they impact your bottom line. It wouldn't be so bad if tariffs were changing a few percent at a time, but we're talking drastic changes that are suddenly up to 125% tariffs in some cases, which is a massive change in the cost of goods sold. Plus, having different rules for different items from different countries, it's a whirlwind of activity as everyone rushes to follow the latest updates while preparing for the upcoming storm. Huge corporations may be able to navigate these turbulent waters without capsizing. But for small and medium businesses, these are bigger waves, and it might seem like it's going to be hard to stay afloat. The good news is Cavallo has your back. There are already a ton of built-in ways to surface and analyze your data in SalesPad. User-defined fields to capture extra data points you need to keep track of, plus workflow and automation options for handling special validation and calculations that matter for your business. With our new Tariff Control add-on for SalesPad, we combine these options with scripting that we tailor to your use cases, so that you can manage these costs however makes sense for your business. This package includes dedicated time with our consultants to make sure you can effectively manage tariffs, from your own internal visibility to automatically passing on tariff costs to your customers, making sure that they have the right level of visibility, and handling any edge cases and special situations that you might have. And will continue to support you as you continue to uncover new rules that you need to handle. People typically manage tariffs at the item level because you can have tariffs on some items and not others. So you can set up tariff percents for each item, and then that can be used to automatically calculate tariff fees that should be added to sales orders. If certain customers should be exempt from tariffs or have a different tariff percent from the standard, then you can set up customer item overrides that only affect that customer's orders. Some of our SalesPad customers use these overrides because they want to pass on less of the tariff costs to their priority customers, or they have special negotiated rates for some customers, and they need to make sure that tariffs don't get added on top of those rates. We also have some SalesPad customers who wanted to make sure that they're excluding tariffs on certain dropship orders, because if you're not actually importing that item into the US, then you don't need to pay those tariffs. So for them, we've scripted in specific rules so that if SalesPad would apply tariffs for that item, but it's a dropship order and the ship to address isn't in the US, then no tariffs are added to the sales order. We have some options for how exactly to add the tariff fee to the sales order. So that can be added into each sales line's price, or they could be added as a separate fee line for easy customer visibility, or they can be added to the order's miscellaneous charge. Typically, people like these rules to be consistent for your own internal organization and sanity, but if you have different customers who need different types of visibility, then you could use some combination of these options so you can provide your customers with exactly what they're asking for. Regardless of how the fee gets factored into the order total, SalesPad can track the exact tariff percent and amount calculated for each sales line and bubble the total tariff amount up to the order level. That way, you always have full internal visibility, and you can easily answer any questions that your customers might have. You can make that information available for your customers on the reports that you send to them also by pulling in the fee line or the fields that show those calculated tariffs, which for most people has just required some small adjustments to reports they're already sending. And you can also ensure that tariffs aren't factored into salesperson commissions, so you're not paying out commission on a fee. If you can source a single item from multiple countries, then obviously item-specific tariffs aren't quite enough by themselves. So what most people do for this situation is track the country of origin as they receive these items. And then SalesPad can use that to calculate the tariffs that should be passed on to customers based on which items are fulfilled to the sales order. The caveat here is that these items really need to be serial or lot tracked for this to work effectively, because keeping track of non-tracked items in GP always ends up being a guessing game. SalesPad supports user-defined fields for serial and lot items. So what most people do is create a country of origin user field, and then they enter the country of origin for each serial and lot item as they are received. So with that kind of setup, you have visibility of the country of origin for each item while it's in inventory, so you can check that when you're deciding which items to fulfill for sales orders. And then you can also see the history of which items from which countries you've shipped to your customers. So you get a lot of super helpful visibility as long as you're keeping track of the country of origin when you receive. If you have items that need to be non-tracked, but also country of origin specific, then you should consider creating separate item masters for each country of origin, so you can more accurately pass on those tariff fees. Some of our SalesPad customers are in this boat. It would just be a huge undertaking to change their items and too much overhead for them to do everything needed to manage serial and lot items. So they would rather have multiple items in the system for the same physical item to keep better track of the country of origin. That does mean that when you place a PO, you need to know the country of origin for the items that the vendor will ship to you ahead of time, so you can enter the correct item numbers on the PO. But then on the sales side, you could use a module like our cross upsell to provide visibility of those related items, and that way sales entry users can easily see which ones are available and switch between them as needed to best fulfill that sales order. Tariffs are included in the cost at the time of receipt, so of course they directly impact each item's cost of goods sold. As we know, COGS is typically the biggest expense for product-oriented businesses and distributors, so it's imperative to stay on top of those costs and be able to react quickly when they increase so you can minimize potential losses. There are a variety of ways that Cavallo helps you keep track of your costs, from built-in SalesPad screens like inventory lookup and sales analysis, to the ultra-configurable quick reports, and our AI-powered Profit Max platform. In SalesPad's inventory lookup, you can see the current cost and standard cost for every item in your system. You can search for particular items and compare their costs and current pricing. In the Purchases tab, you can see the historical costs for that item across your vendors. So you can see how costs differ between your vendors, when costs changed, and by how much. In the Sales tab, you can review historical sales for that item and see the unit cost and unit price for each invoice. And in all of these areas, you have all of those handy grid features that let you sort, filter, and group the data so you can really drill into what you need to see. In SalesPad Sales Analysis, you can see sales, cost, profit, and margin percent for each item across target time periods. So you can see how tariff increases are impacting your item level profitability. If you find that some of your items are dropping below your target margin, then you can consider adjusting your item pricing or otherwise passing on tariff costs to help mitigate those cost increases. SalesPad's quick reports let you surface really any data you need out of the database. You can play with that data by grouping, filtering, and sorting, and you can build in whatever search options you like to really hone in on the information you need. One of our customers needed a special internal report where they could search for a customer and an item, and then see all of the times they've ever shipped that item to that customer with the country of origin, cost, and final price. So that way, if their priority customers wanted to avoid higher prices from higher tariffs and request items sourced from a different country with lower tariffs, they could work with them to figure out which items would be priced lower, and then add in fulfillment rules to their process to make sure they respect those requests and strengthen that relationship. We also have our Profit Max platform, which is a separate web-based application that uses AI and machine learning to surface even deeper insights from your data. You can see visual charts of your COGS over time for target time periods, overall and for individual items, drill in and see COGS and margin on specific invoices, see which items were your top gainers and top decliners by margin percent, margin amount, sales, and quantity, and analyze sales, COGS, and margin by different segments like customer class, item class, sales rep, and more. So this really helps you find specific areas where you might be leaking profit. Maybe a particular customer has customer special pricing set up in SalesPad that hasn't been updated in a while. Your costs have increased, and now you're actually losing money on some items that you sell to them. So now you know, and you can adjust their customer special pricing in SalesPad so that you can make money on those orders again. Or maybe a particular item class hasn't had price updates in a while. The vendor increased their pricing a few months back, and again, you've been losing money without knowing it. These features really help you identify and diagnose your profit problem areas, and then you can make changes in SalesPad to treat those issues. The Profit Max platform also has a what-if analysis screen, which lets you play with the variables that contribute to your profitability. It gives you information like your current unique customer count, average number of orders per customer, average lines per order, and the average price and cost per line. And then you can adjust those numbers to see how small tweaks to some of these areas can have a big impact on your overall margin. This lets you dig into questions like you can see here. If tariffs increase overall COGS by 12%, will a pricing adjustment of, say, 6% be enough to offset that potential margin drop? As we can see here, yes, if all other factors stayed the same, then that would actually net a slight increase in overall margin. So then you could ask, well, how many customers could we stand to lose from the price increases before our margin drops? And what other initiatives would help us maintain our profitability? Some of our customers would rather avoid raising prices too much, so they find it super helpful to play with these factors, like increasing the average lines per order, to see how that can also help offset the cost increase. And then they build sales initiatives around the areas that would give them the most bang for their buck. Instead of paying an outside consultant to build dashboards and a ton of different reports, the Profit Max platform lets you slice and dice your data in a ton of ways. Plus, it works hand in hand with SalesPad. So you can launch links in the Profit Max platform that take you into SalesPad to see your sales documents in more detail. There is plenty more value that the Profit Max platform provides, so definitely connect with us if you'd like to learn more. Tariff volatility is going to be a problem for the foreseeable future. So one way or another, you need to take control of the situation so you can stay on top of your profitability. Cavallo gives you a ton of options for your tariff management tool belt, letting you see the impact, mitigate the costs, and provide the best possible support for your customers so you can continue building those relationships even through this turmoil. The big waves and choppy waters may spring a few leaks in your boat along the way, but with these tools, you can patch them up quickly and continue sailing even faster and stronger than before. Thank you, everyone. Are there any questions for me?
Looks like we have a question. For a company to use this, is the SalesPad pricing module needed?
No, not necessarily, but everybody's a little different in how they want to manage tariffs. So it really depends on how exactly you want to configure all of this. So if you have something like SalesPad group pricing that comes in that pricing module, that gives you ways to automatically set pricing based on the cost of the item. So it can handle those automatic increases for you without you having to think about it. Which has its own upsides and downsides just because price could be changing and you wouldn't necessarily know about it. But also it helps you take care of those cost increases and keep up with your margin percent and where you want to be. So it really depends on how you need things to work. But in general, if you're looking at like tracking the tariffs on your items, passing those on the sales orders, that would really be just configuration, user fields, scripting, so you wouldn't necessarily need the pricing module.
We have another question. What all on this list is considered an add-on? We are currently using quick reports and a user-defined field to see our tariff costs.
Gotcha, okay. Yeah, it depends a bit on the exact SalesPad licensing that you have today. Some of our older licensing models were more split out, which means that some of the stuff like SalesPad pricing was an add-on module, but in our latest pricing model, pretty much everything besides integrations are included in the base SalesPad install. So what I'm talking about with the user-defined fields, the quick reports, the scripting, all of that comes in base SalesPad pretty much across our different licensing structures that we've had in the past. So for most of that, you'd be good. But if you wanted to do special things like with the group pricing and customer special pricing, and you're on one of those older license structures, then potentially that would be an add-on you'd have to look at. The Profit Max platform is also a separate offering, so that isn't part of SalesPad, it's its whole own application. It just ties in nicely with SalesPad.
Doesn't look like we have any other questions right now.
All right, that sounds good. Well, if there is anything else that anyone thinks of after they drop off the call, as I know I do sometimes, feel free to connect with us, with implementation specialists, and we will definitely do our best to help you in any way possible. Leah, is there anything else that you would like to cover today?
No, I don't think so. Thanks, Alyssa.
Yeah, thank you everyone, and thank you implementation specialists for having us.